The world turns, and with each turn, a change. And each change makes it more complex, unpredictable, enigmatic. The world keeps turning. And from the Pellicer and Heredia practice, we anticipate everything that is going to happen. Brexit, artificial intelligence, new commercial borders, legal tech. The world keeps turning, and it commands the reliance on international lawyers who are capable of interpreting this new reality with integrity, honesty, and transparency, offering answers to so many new questions. Whatever it is, ask us. At Pellicer and Heredia, we know how.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you very much for joining us today to our, I wouldn't tell you the numbers of webinar we've been doing so far. Thank you very much for your time and for your feedback on a daily basis that we really appreciate. Let me introduce here, we've got Pedro Heredia, international lawyer.
Hello, everyone. Hello.
We've got Michael Davies from Almeria. Hello, Michael, can you see us?
Hello.
We've got Richard here from Brexpats in Spain, non-lucrative association. Hello, Richard.
Hi. Hi to everybody.
Well, thank you again for joining us today. And today we're going to talk about the topic of golden visa. Very important topic for those who might be wanting to invest in Spain and avoiding here probably the complications of the tax situation in Spain, because with the golden visa, as Pedro will explain now today, you've got different possibilities as in the other way around, the non-lucrative visa will request you to stay a minimum of 6 months. Now, if you're happy now, I'm going to pass over to Pedro and please start sending your questions through the chat. And then Richard is going to start filtering through and hopefully we're going to answer all of them. We're going to try to do it in 1 hour of our time, but if necessary, we could extend a little bit longer. So we're going to start cracking on golden visa. So later on, I forgot to mention, Michael will discuss about the possibility of making wills in Spain, whether that is important or not, and the inheritance tax issue for those of you who are watching from a different country now and you're willing to relocate in Spain. So Pedro, would you like to start?
Yeah.
What is the golden visa, Pedro?
Thank you very much, Ignacio. I have to thank you, all of you, with all the feedback and all the questions we are receiving a lot. Not just with this webinar, we are receiving for the past webinars. A lot of questions regarding golden visa. Obviously, it's connected with taxes, with resident tax or non-resident, as well as if you become the end resident, about wills, as it's going to be explained by Michael. Well, about golden visa is something obviously is very specific. It's something a topic it's an immigration issue, I would say, but it's an investment visa. And as you may know, you may understand, obviously, the golden visa is an investment visa. There are different kinds of investment that can be made. And well, we will be focusing on one of them, which is probably, I would say, 90% of the golden visa that is at the end is applied, is submitted, is regarding investment on property. So apart from that, apart from the property, which is the minimum investment of 500,000 euros, there are some other investments in a bank deposits, in some company in Spain, or a Spanish debt, or even though to start entrepreneur project. But we will focus on investment on property. Okay, but if anyone has another question, query about any other kind of investment, please make a question as right now, and we will try to answer all of that during this webinar. Okay, what I'm going to do, I'm going to stand up and try to explain you in this board regarding what are the main issue, the main important things in the golden visa. As I said, golden visa is an investment visa, and we will focus on 500,000 euros investment. I will be writing here, obviously, these numbers. 500,000 euros investment. What does allow you if you get the golden visa? Are you allowed to live in Spain and reside in Spain, to be resident in Spain? The answer is yes. Are you allowed to work in Spain? Yes, you can work in Spain. It's different if we compare into the non-lucrative visa. This is an investment visa that you get authorization to live in Spain, to be resident in Spain if you want. Okay, so you can stay 1 day in Spain per year, or you may be all the year in Spain. You have the faculty to choose whether you want just to spend 1 day, or maybe all of your days on a year in Spain. Obviously, in case that you stay more than 183 days in Spain on a tax year, Ignacio, obviously you become tax resident, and then we may have some explanation about what are the grounds to, if you become tax resident in Spain, you should take into account. But actually today starts the tax season in order to apply for a draft document from the tax office in Spain in order to get information about tax office from you. So right now it's starting the period of time in order to start preparing the tax return for the year 2021. Okay, but let's focus on the golden visa. Golden visa, we said, is an investment on property, and you can work, you can live, you can be resident in Spain, and you can move around the Schengen area. There are more than 20 countries in the Schengen area, and if any one of you would like to have a list, obviously it's very simple to obtain that list into Google, but you will be able to move into Europe, into those Schengen countries that are part of the Schengen scheme. Okay, 500,000 euros. What if someone already invested before apply for the golden visa? What if someone invested in 2020? What if someone invested in 2014? Well, the answer is that you can include those investments into the application. Well, if I'm not wrong, if I'm not wrong, the law that applies, opens, obviously, the golden visa and many other rules regarding immigration and other issues is on the date 27th of September 2013. And the following day, which is 28th of September 2013, apply this act. So any investment made from that date can be included into the golden visa scheme, can be included into submission in any investment. Okay, in any application on a golden visa. Well, okay, what if someone has invested in 2 or 3 properties always after this date, and those 3 properties altogether is more than 500,000 euros? Can be submitted, can be applied the golden visa? The answer is yes. Okay. It doesn't matter if you invested in 1 property or 10 properties or 20 properties, that you can include all of them into an application of the golden visa. That's extremely important. It's something that is always asked by clients, but always important is after the 28th of September, on or after the 28th of September 2013. Okay, so having said that you can invest in different properties. What kind of properties can you invest? That's another issue, another question that is made many times. Has to be a villa? You have to live there? No, I mean, it's a property. You have to invest in property. Could be an apartment, a flat, a house, a country house, a land. It could be a garage, storage, I mean, something that is duly inscribed in the land registry. That's probably the key point. Properties are defined as properties and also can be inscribed in the land registry. Why do I say about the land registry, which is, I would say, all of the properties as a real estate can be inscribed in the registry, except those ones who are not still inscribed in the land registry. But I would say 99% of the properties in Spain are duly inscribed in land registry. is because at the end, whenever we prove the investment, we get a certification from land registry. Then we will speak about the timing when to apply, when is going to get, when from the investment period, whenever you invest, complete in the notary office. We may, Ignacio, we also may be able to explain a little bit about the buying process. Maybe Michael can help us with that, about the buying process.
Yeah. And
why the golden visa needs to be started to be applied after the investment has done complete into a notary office. Could be before, with some exceptions, but we will not enter in that today. Okay, so the investment can be made in different properties and different kind of properties. Okay, that's important. But if the minimum investment is that, what if I apply for a mortgage? What if I want to apply for half of that to apply for a bank right now to get a mortgage in order to buy this property? That will be successful in order to apply for the golden visa? The answer is no. So what you need to invest is at least 500,000 euros from your pocket. Let's put an example. Imagine that you are buying a property of 800,000 euros. And that's the price, the purchase price. That's the price that you are going to invest. It doesn't matter if it's a resale or if it's a new property, but this is the property, the price of the property that you, the base of property, except taxes, except notary fees, except land registry fees, except lawyers fees. That is the base, the price that you have agreed and you are willing to pay to the vendor. Well, at least you can apply for a mortgage, for example, is 300,000 euros. You will be able to get a loan from the bank in order to obtain a mortgage, but we need to demonstrate that you have invested at least 500,000 euros. That's important. So can be bought a property in order to be included in the golden visa with a mortgage? The answer is yes, but you need to demonstrate that you have already invested 500,000 euros. That's important. I will try to put some questions or and answers that we sometimes receive from clients. Okay, well, another issue, Ignacio, and that we receive a lot is, well, I am buying the property with my wife, or with my partner, with my spouse, with my husband, with my wife, and well, the property is not more than 1 million euros, but it is more than 500,000 euros. That's a question that is always asked because, well, maybe said or maybe understood a property of, for example, 600,000 euros that is really invested. It's exposed for each partner 300,000 euros. So obviously that will not be possibly able to be applied with a golden visa. So if it's a marriage, or if it's a situation where it's invested more than 500,000 euros, but less than 1 million, because if it's more than 1 million, there is no problem because we can demonstrate more than 500,000 euros each one. But if it's more than 500 and less than 1 million, for example, 600,000 euros, how do we apply for that? Well, we need to demonstrate to the immigration authorities that the marriage, in this case, has like a community or jointly agreement of assets. I'm not sure how to translate that into English, but it means that assets from one of the spouse and assets from the other spouse are in the same, let's say, in the same bank, in the same. Both of them are owners of both assets. So it means that in this case, one of them, of the spouse, will apply for the golden visa, and the other one will be added to that application as a family member. Okay, that's important because if in some countries that you are married, and obviously the situation or the agreement between marriage is that separation of assets, which means that my assets are mine, my assets are mine. That means that if you buy a property and the property is both together in two names, it looks like it's a 300,000 euros each one investment, and that will not get through a golden visa. So it's important. Before that, change the situation about the marriage, bring this property into the marriage in case it's already bought, and if not, just to change that before you buy the property in the future. It's extremely important to specify in the deed which is the condition of the marriage is in case it's bought by two people. Okay, well, let's go to just to try to be briefly, and I'll try to explain a little bit about the requirements. Which are the requirements? Which is obviously one of the requirements is the investment. How do you demonstrate investment? Obviously, with the buy-in process that will be explained by Michael. At the end, you make the investment. It's already in a deed, in a contract, in a public office, in a notary office, and that goes at the end to a land registry, which is duly described. And then what we get is a certification that says, well, which is the amount of investment in order to cover the golden visa. So the investment needs to be obviously one of the important proofs that we have to. But we have also another one, which is criminal records. Okay, it's a requirement by the immigration office that you have to demonstrate that in the last 5 years there is no criminal records. With the criminal records certification, you demonstrate that there is no criminal records in the last 5 years in any country that you've been resident in the last 5 years. If you've been in the US or Canada or in UK now, and in the last 5 years, there's just a certification of criminal records of that specific country. But if you've been in the last 2 years, for example, in the US, but the 3 years before it's been in a different country, let's say South Africa, or even Oman, or Canada, or any other country in the world, then will have to be also added to that specific application. But it's in the last 5 years, criminal records. That's important. Another requirement is, well, I wouldn't say it's insurance, but insurance to cover hospitalization and without any co-payment. Even though this is what we normally recommend, a private insurance with an insurance company that covers the first year, or maybe the 2 years. I will explain about the application, how many period of time you can apply to start. But insurance needs to be done perfectly with hospitalization to cover that. But also if you have a right in your own country to apply for public access to health, you may get the right in order to have access to public health in Spain, which is also extremely good. Private health and public health are extremely good in Spain, and we have clients that are very, very happy with the system that we have. With doctors that are very professional and very good on the hospitals. And I have to say that that is correct, because obviously we live here, and I have had some situations that I'm very happy that well, hospitals and doctors in Spain are fantastic. Okay, well, insurance, criminal records, we said about investment, obviously the 500,000 euros. Also, would be, this is not very important, but it's a certification for medical in order to show that you don't have like a illness or virus that is a big a risk in order to Spain. This is covered by the International Convention on Health from 2005 that says about all this kind of illness that are included. So it is required a certification from a doctor that says that you are without this kind of illness. Okay, so criminal records, insurance, and one important issue is, let's call it FM, is that financial means. Financial means, as we have explained many times also with the non-lucrative visa, you have to show to Spanish authorities that you have enough money to live in Spain without working. You are allowed to work, you are allowed to reside, live in Spain, but you have to, in case that you do not, you have to show and demonstrate that you have enough money to live. It doesn't say, I'm not saying that, well, I'm not going to work, or I'm going to work, so I don't have to show that. No, you have to show the financial means from the very first beginning. Then you decide whether to work or not. Is your problem or is your issue? It's not something to do with the immigration office. You have to demonstrate enough financial means. What is enough financial mean? Well, for one person, I will just say for one person will be 27,000 euros minimum. This is a minimum requirement. As much as you show, that would be better. And for each family member, for example, one of them, as I said, is a marriage, for example, and one of them applies is a principal application, and the rest of them, the spouse is a family member, which will have to show that you have 7,000 euros a year and to live in Spain. So one applicant, 27, and each family member, spouse, each children will have to be added 7,000, 7,000, 7,000. For example, a family of a marriage and two children, for example, would be 27 plus 21 would be 48,000 euros to show every year. That does not mean that you have to pay. That does not mean that this money has to be in Spain. It could be anywhere in the world, but you need to demonstrate that you have access to that money. That whenever you are in Spain, you will be able to spend it. You will be able to go to a supermarket, to a doctor, or to be able to pay the landlord or if whatever. At the end, to show that you have enough money to live in Spain. Okay, that's important. So criminal records, insurance, financial means, the medical certification, and the investment. Okay, well, I think that is in order to summarize and to end up, I think there's more or less the requirements. I will then end up just with the timing, the timing of applying the golden visa. I'm going to write down here number 1 and okay, number 1, 2, and 5. Okay, where should I submit the application for the golden visa? Well, there is, in order to start the golden visa, may be also that the application may be submitted, if you want to, in the Spanish consulate, in the country that you are resident, or in the Spanish consulate that is competent to the territory where you are resident. And that application will be for the period of 1 year. And well, before 60 days or 90 days after, let's say before these end-ups, you have to renew. Or if you have made the investment, or if you are in Spain, physically in Spain, you are physically in Spain, then we may be able to apply for your golden visa through electronically with the computers, and we apply for that, and you will get directly a 2 years period of time to have an authorization of resident as an investor. Okay, and well, also again, before that ends up, we have to be a period of time before that to start the renewal. Important issue to renew. Obviously, you need to demonstrate what we said before. Financial means, the insurance or access to public health. Criminal records in that case will not be needed because if you have been resident in Spain, if you haven't been resident in Spain, will happy to be required again for the last 5 years or the last year in order to demonstrate that. And obviously, the maintenance of the investment. That's important. Maintenance of investment, it means that you have already made an investment, you have already applied for a golden visa because of this investment, but can you sell the property and buy another one? The answer is yes. Can you sell the property investment 500,000 euros and then make a bank deposit of, for example, 1 million euros, which is a minimum requirement for the bank deposit? The answer is yes. You need to maintain and demonstrate to the immigration office that you made an investment. There is an investment, you maintain the investment. But do not have to be a specific property or that specific product of investment or fund that you have done in Spain. Can be changed, but this is subjective. What cannot be done is that you get a golden visa and you rapidly sell the property, and then before renewal, you just buy another one. And the investment is not in Spain. That will not work at all. There is no rules regarding how much time, but obviously you need to try to be sense of common in order to maintain the investment. Okay, that's important. For example, if you buy up different properties and you show that you have made, for example, 700,000 euros in investment, and one of them is, for example, a garage, which is covered 30,000 euros, obviously you can sell it, no problem. You are maintaining at the end the minimum investment, which is 500,000 euros. Okay, and just to finalize, and because the golden visa is a very straightforward visa, is a very straightforward. Once you fulfill all the requirements at the end, you get the visa. There is no, even though there are some criteria in some aspects. For example, what if I buy a property with a company? Can I buy a property with a not a Spanish company? Yes, I mean you can buy a property with a Spanish company or with a non-resident company, even though not the ones who are in a tax haven. And even though the principal application is to be have a power of the company in order to remove directors, have a majority of the shares. I mean, all these conditions needs to be checked in order to apply. But can be done through a non-resident company and not a Spanish company. And even though when you fulfill all the requirements, and there are some aspects on the criteria, you will get the golden visa, I would say between 10 and 20 days. It's very rapid, it's very straightforward. And obviously with the visa, you enter in Spain, or if you are already in Spain, then we follow the steps in order to have an appointment on an immigration office and obtain the card where it identifies you as an investor, to have authorization to be resident in Spain, as a resident in Spain, to be as an investor. As I said at the beginning, this does not mean that you are tax resident. This does not mean that you have to declare taxes. Obviously, you have made an investment on property. There is something that we have also to speak about, is about the non-resident tax. If you are not going to be a resident, if you are not going to spend more than 180 days in Spain, then you have to submit a made application of a non-resident tax because you own a property in Spain. But if you spend more than 180 days, then you have to, well, it's attracted the obligation about declaring and pay taxes in Spain about your worldwide income in Spain. And I think just to start, Ignacio, I think is enough explanation. Obviously, I'm happy to make any question you may have, and obviously we'll be happy to answer any of them. We'll be speaking about buying a property, non-resident tax, also about resident tax, and many other issues. I mean, let's start with that, Ignacio.
Good. All right, Pedro. Now let's get cracking with the tax, the ugly subject of paying taxes in Spain. I think I'm going to do it this way, which I think is much easier than going and doing the wiping. Okay, and probably we're going to talk now about different scenario of. Let me just get it from here, and I don't know if the green one will work, and you could see. But can you see, Paco? Yeah, this way? Right. A lot of questions you have here is, Ignacio, what about if I have golden visa? What does it mean from a tax point of view? Okay. As Pedro stated, today is starting the period of time to lodge your income tax return in Spain as a resident. Okay. Now, if you have a golden visa, probably you have decided not to stay more than 6 months. As Pedro stated, you could have bought a property, you could have invested in a deposit in Spain for €1 million, you could have invested in company shares as well to qualify, so you don't only need to buy a property, or you could have started to set up a company, as Pedro has been representing a company here very close, and they managed to get the golden visa because of the project's got special interest for Spain, it's bringing work, etc., etc. So that's very, very good. Okay. Now you will tell me, Ignacio, How does it work here in Spain? Well, just as a reminder, I don't know if Paco could say, if he could say, or I could change the color, but are you okay to say, Paco? Yes? Not very much? Okay, I'll just use another one. And I will explain to you here how it works. Let's say we are now, because we're talking about 2021, right? Today is the 6th of April, 2022, but we are looking back on 2021, right? In Spain, starts from January to December. But don't get confused, because the immigration doesn't work that way. The immigration, you could have come in 2020. And probably 2020, you arrive in September. So you arrive in September, you are legally resident in Spain from September 2020. You will be renewing, as Pedro stated, 1 year, 2 years, 2 years, and then 5 years, the permanent. Okay, but September is starting. So the question I will make to you, what do you think here? 2020, are you a tax resident or non-resident? Well, if you only stayed here 3 months, obviously, and you started buying the property, let's say you bought a property in Spain. This year, you are a non-tax resident. A non-tax resident means you're going to pay as a non-tax resident in 2021. And then we will need you to provide us a copy of your title deed, copy of your SUMA in this community, 𝐸𝐵 in different communities, because it's the same tax bill. And then we could work out for you the income tax return as a non-resident. What does it mean as you having a golden visa and being non-tax resident? Because we're talking about 2020, you'll be non-resident tax, and that means you will only pay small tax based on the value of your property, if that's what you have. Okay. Now, let's get back to say, Ignacio, that's very good. 2020, I'm non-resident, non-fiscal resident. Let's clarify that. Okay, because if you have your TIE, so with the tarjeta de identificación de extranjeros, which means that the identity card of a foreigner with a residency permit. Okay, so with this, that's your ID card in Spain as a foreigner. You are a no tax code, which is very good. It is important, and I will share with you later on, Pedro, the dual taxation treaty between Spain, UK, United States, for you to understand a little bit different tax scenarios, for you to understand how to use a dual taxation treaty, etc., etc. Okay, but to make things simple, let's start. What happened here in 2021? Very simple. The tax obligation here, we're clear. Only one tax as a non-resident. Here, you are more than 6 months. Let's say 1st of July. Well, let's say you stay more than 6 months, then that means, according to the Dual Taxation Treaty, Article 4, it will say that you've been here more than 6 months and therefore you're a tax resident here. Very good. Or probably you stayed during all this calendar year less than 6 months, which means we repeat the same action. So Pedro, we could have a golden visa with non-resident tax, non-resident tax, non-resident tax, and on and on and on. What does it mean? We've been discussing with you in a lot of private conference here, about the benefits or inconvenience of being tax resident in a particular time of your life. What it might be good for you today to become non-resident, probably you could be non-resident now and eventually having full control of your assets and taxation. Because as I said, it is important for you to do tax planning to know the scenario. And therefore, what I suggest you to do, sit down with your lawyer and do these things, this planning. So here we go. We've got the non-resident here. Less than 6 months, non-resident tax, we repeat the same action. Or, and here we go, more than 183 days in a calendar year. Don't get confused with the TIE, because you came here in September. You're probably going to have 1 year from this date, 2 years, 2 years, and 5. But here, the tax is a different, completely different time frame. You start from the 1st of January, you end on the 31st of December. More than 6 months, which means tax implications. Right. What happens now? I think I need another board, actually. We have the 720, which probably, Pedro, we could share it. Who's got the obligation? Once you've got your golden visa, once you are in Spain and you decided, because you've got the option to decide whether you want to become fiscal resident or non-resident, which I consider very good, a very good option. Once you do all the numbers. And you are, by any reasons, tax resident, you will do the 720 form, which Pedro is going to share it with you, the link in the website to understand it. That's over. We cannot help it anymore because from January to March is the time to do it. Some of you might say, Ignacio, well, that's being abolished. Well, it has been, certain things have been declared abusive and illegal, and the government has erased that. So the 720 is still valid. The only thing is the expiring dates that they had in the past, that is being abolished. The fines that they were in the old days, that is being, abolished. So there is a new 720 form for you to comply. So this is the first thing I will tell you, the tax implication for your golden visa, 720. You need to inform assets over 50,000 euros from 1st of January to the 31st of March, bank accounts, properties, shares, bonds, dividends, or even private pensions that you could take it in one lump sum. Okay, but that means informing, doesn't mean paying taxes yet. Right, we are on the 1st of April. We finish with the 720 and we start with the income tax return, which we are now, as Pedro stated. You need, and I did include it in the chat, you have the La Renta, which is the income tax return in Spain, and you need to do your income tax return. Bear in mind, some of you might be using the dual taxation treaty, and it's different for ones and different for others. For example, civil service pensions are exempt, private pensions needs to be declared here. It is important, if you're British, to inform in the Inland Revenue that you are a no tax resident, so you only pay in Spain, except the compulsory pensions. Or if you're American, for example, you've got the issues of Social Security, that they tax you over there. I normally prefer you to ask for an extension if you're Americans, because the Americans' income tax returns are different, are a bit more complex because they're tax for nationals. So you're an American citizen, therefore you pay taxes over there. What I recommend you to do, obviously, number one, to speak to your advisor and see what is the specific scenario for you. Number two, ask for an extension and try to do the one in Spain where you're a resident using the dual taxation treaty. Okay, so what dates, Ignacio, do I have? I've got my golden visa. I need to do the tax. I've been here 2021, more than 6 months. And now we need to do from the 1st of April to the 30th of June, we need to do the tax declaration. We need to do the income tax return and we need to do the wealth tax, okay? With regards to wealth tax as well, I recommend you to do simulation because it sounds like, well, we're going to pay a lot of money. And we've been doing a lot of simulations and you'll be surprised about the different allowances that you've got when you do the income tax, when you do the wealth, etc., etc. Again, I will give you an article for you to see the scale of that. Okay. Now, remember, 1st of April to the 30th of June. And once you're finished with that, then that's from a tax point of view, that's basically it. You will not have to do anything else. Or if you are a non-resident, you've got stay 1st of January to the 31st of December. So let's say here, 2020, you've got the whole year to lodge last year. So let's say you're non-resident in 2020. You've got the whole year, so you've got really 12 months to lodge your income tax return as a non-resident. However, if you are a resident, you only have 3 months. And for 720, you only have 3 months. Okay? Now, trying to give you the best advice out of it. and even though it's only general, I recommend you to do tax planning, to understand your situation, because what it might be good for you might not be for another. And this is a big confusion, okay? But this, in general terms, it is how it works in Spain with the golden visa. We didn't talk today about the non-lucrative visa. We did talk last time. The non-lucrative visa, you must be more than 6 months in Spain in a calendar year. Okay, so now, as I said, doing tax planning, it saves you stress, time, and money. And we could even organize it through a video conference, and that's good. Okay, so I'm having a very much good feedback from you guys saying thank you for the information, thank you for that. And I really appreciate, and that's why we carry on doing these webinars, because I find it that is useful for you. As long as it helps, it's good. Now, going back to work with regards to buying a property in Spain. Now, we've got the golden visa. We still don't know yet, or we know that we're going to be non-resident or resident. And how do I buy a property in Spain? And I'm going to ask Michael if he could explain briefly how it works to buy a property in Spain, and then we could jump on to the benefits of making wills and inheritance, because once you have assets in Spain, we highly recommend you to make a will, at least in Spain, and work out any possible tax scenario. All right, Michael, over to you.
Thank you, Ignacio. My name is Michael Davies. I'm a Spanish lawyer. I'm based down in Andalusia. I specialize mainly in inheritance matters. Okay, so regarding the purchase process, we always say that when somebody buys in Spain, there's 3 main things that they need to ask advice about. One is the actual purchase process. The other is taxation and residencia, that has been explained marvelously well by Ignacio and Pedro. And the third thing, which is where we get involved, is we think people should talk to a lawyer in Spain about inheritance tax and wills, especially if they're going to buy to retire out in Spain, where obviously it could lead to years later them dying in Spain. So it's important to know what they're getting into. Okay, so I'll quickly go through the purchase process, and then I'll just have do a quick talk about the wills and the inheritance. Regarding the purchase process, the first thing obviously is to buy in Spain. My only advice on this is to explore Spain well, because Spain is very diverse depending on what you like and what you're looking for. So choose carefully. Then as far as the buying process, there's various ways that you can find the property, either through estate agents. There are a lot of websites now where you can see buy directly from sellers. Okay, so the first thing that you would normally do is you come over to Spain, you'd find the property, and we always say, can you hear me well? Can you hear me okay?
Yep.
Yep. So before putting down any money on the property that you like, speak to a lawyer. So maybe really before you sort of find the property, you should have the lawyer all lined up and ready to go when the property is found. Sometimes as a necessary evil, the estate agent will ask you for €3,000 reservation to take the property off the market while your solicitor has time to look through all the basic paperwork and move towards what would be normal in Spain, which would be a 10% deposit contract, which would set a completion date. Okay, so between the reservation and the deposit contract and such by the lawyer, you'll need to do various things. The main thing is that you'll need to accept the budget of the lawyer, who will normally ask you for a retainer. You'll need to start organizing a power of attorney so that he can do all the work. And if you're in Spain, when all this happens, I suggest you going and open up a Spanish bank account. If you're in the UK, it's not the end of the world, because the lawyer can do everything by power of attorney. The power of attorney can be signed either in Spain before you go back, or maybe you've sort of seen the property but haven't decided on it, so the lawyer can send you the power of attorney to be signed in the UK. So the power of attorney will also include the faculty for your lawyer to request your Spanish NIE numbers. I recommend that when he sends you the budget, you ask for a budget at the same time for a Spanish will, because that's advisable. And if it's not on the budget, he's going to recommend it later. So I think it's good that you have all the prices for all the different things that you're going to need. I'd also ask them is if you're going to remain a non-resident, whether he can later do your non-resident tax returns, or if you're going to become a resident, if he's got, if he knows about annual tax returns for residents as well. So with that, the lawyer will do all the searches in the property register, the town halls, etc., and you'll move towards the completion. For the completion, you don't need to be in Spain. All your money will go to your Spanish bank account, and the lawyer will draw the drafts from that account to do the completion at the notary. If handled correctly, buying a property in Spain is 100% safe. It's an absolutely foul-proof system where a last-minute search is received at the property register, and it works very well. So the lawyer will receive the keys on handing over the money at the completion at the notary, and then you'll have all your paperwork about a month and a half later. When people say, how long does it take to buy a property in Spain? Well, normally a normal sort of completion period would be anywhere between a month and 3 months. I expect it's similar up in the Valencia region. No, Ignacio, Pedro, similar 1 to 3 months would be sort of normal, normal thing to expect. Okay, so regarding wills and inheritance, regarding the purchase expenses vary slightly depending on the region where you're purchasing in Spain. If you're buying a second-hand property, there can be a slight difference in transfer tax depending on where you're purchasing. So basically, we're talking about anywhere between 10 and 13% should be what all the taxes and fees come to when you buy a property. I say it depends on the region. And if you're buying a new property, it's slightly more expensive because instead of being subject to transfer tax, it's subject to VAT plus a document tax. So in other words, if it was a new property, you're probably talking about anywhere around the 13% more or less all over Spain. Because when you buy a new property, there's hardly any difference between the regions and when you buy a second-hand property. So regarding wills and inheritance, this is an important matter. Inheritance tax is not the same all over Spain. Each region has different sets of exemptions. So if you're going to buy a very valuable property or a high net family, I think it's good to explore the different levels of inheritance tax through different regions of Spain before handling the purchase, just to see what you're getting into. Some regions are better than others in this respect. Now, regarding the wills and what Ignacio and Pedro have been talking about, one of the big decisions, of course, you've got is whether you become a resident or not. Well, if you become a resident, it's absolutely essential that you make a Spanish will in which you choose that it's called Directive 650/2012. You choose your English law to determine how you can distribute your estate, and you do that on your Spanish will. Why is it so important? Well, in Spain, we have a system of obligatory heirs, which makes it obligatory for Spanish people to leave 2/3 of their estate directly down to their children. They can't do mirrored wills like you do in the UK. So how do you escape that system? There's no problem at all. You just got to make a will when you purchase the property. And one of the clauses of that will says that you choose English law just to the point of determining how you're allowed to distribute your estate. And then you can leave your estate however you like. This is very normal. All lawyers that are used to dealing with foreigners know how to do this. If you're a non-resident, we'd also recommend making a will, but at least we won't have this problem of the obligatory heir. So after you've purchased property, make a Spanish will. It's very, very important. The difference in costs between going to probate when there's a will or there's no will is it's a very large difference. We're talking about double, probably also double the time scale, and it can actually lead to really serious problems when convalidating the English will for use in Spain, etc. So that's in a nutshell. So 3 things to get advice on: how to purchase a property, what happens with the immigration and your taxation, all that question of resident, non-resident, and your wills and the inheritance tax. I think we could all have gone on. This could have taken like 1 week to explain in depth. So it's just a little.
It's excellent, Michael. Actually, yeah, it's very good because you try to summarize everything with so little time. But I'm sure clients will organize a video conference if they want to take it further. You know, because it's difficult to have a specific with so many circumstances. Right, I'm going to pass over to Richard and Michael. Just if you could remind your direct email, and then they could always, it's Davies Solicitors. It's easy to find in the website, but your direct emails in case they want to talk about any specific simulation.
Yeah, thanks.
Yeah.
So the first thing is basically we specialize in inheritance, mainly inheritance. We do handle all over Spain. When it comes to conveyancing, unless it's a very expensive property, we only stick to Andalusia region. So there are great lawyers in other parts of Spain, like yourselves up in the Valencia region. So I say this: we receive lots of requests for budgets for maybe, and unless it's a very expensive property, we can't be cost effective outside of Andalusia. So to find us, it's just basically www.daviessolicitors.com, and you can email us directly from the website.
And it's not a problem, Michael, to organize video conference with you, correct? It's easy to organize it.
We do it the same way that you do with Zoom calls, which we find it's the best way. We find it's almost as good as being in the office. So it's good.
That's great. That's very good. Now we're going to pass over to Richard. Richard is being vice president of Brexpats, and it is Brexpats International now. Now Richard is covering, I guess, the whole world. Yeah, Richard. Now, could you please start, Richard, with the questions from the forum and probably from Brexpats in Spain, and if you could summarize a little bit, and then we could start trying to make it on time and to keep it dynamic. Over to you, Richard.
Okay, Ignacio, thank you. I'm going to make a comment that we're getting, we see from the people who contact us, the Brexpats in Spain International. One of the things I would say to people, and it's already been said, but I'm going to repeat it, planning is the key to moving to Spain. It may be that your best route is a non-lucrative visa. It may be that your best route is a golden visa. It may be that neither are applicable to you and you want to come here for the 90 days. The trick, for want of a better word, is to discuss it with me. At Brexpats in Spain, we're quite happy to talk to you. If you need referring to yourselves, for instance, or Michael, that's what we do. But you do need to plan and think about what you're going to do. And Michael raised a very interesting point that he said quickly, but I'm going to reiterate it. Don't just say, I'm going to move to Spain, I'm going to move to Alicante. Look around, maybe even rent before you come out here, and look and see where you want to live. And different regions have different rules. Again, particularly with a golden visa, moving to one region or moving to another, or with an unlucrative visa, it may not be advantageous for you. You need to seek advice. And I think that's a fundamental point that needs getting over from this video. Okay, we've got questions coming in. Anne has asked, I pay UK taxes on my occupational pension. How will this be affected by our move to Spain on a golden visa? This is a two-part question. Let's deal with that one first. Ignacio, I think that would be you, wouldn't it?
Which one you dealing? Which one you dealing with? The one from Anne?
Yeah.
The one from Anne Hartley.
Right. Be affected by our move to Spain or golden visa. Right. I think Anne is referring to paying taxes in Spain, correct? Whether you've got a golden visa or a non-lucrative visa, it doesn't really matter. The important thing, Anne, is whether you stay more than 6 months in a calendar year. Now, I understand, Richard, that the occupational pension will be like a private pension, correct, Richard?
Yes, that would be, yeah, to some extent. It depends if it's a civil service occupational pension. For instance,
it is.
Ambulance.
Do you say that it was a civil service? I couldn't hear now well.
If it's a civil service pension, it is slightly different to an occupational pension, because civil service pensions are definitely taxed in the UK.
Right. The straight answer, and here, if you have a private pension, which it will be an occupational pension, it will be taxed in Spain. There is a system that you will, once you come over to Spain, whether you've got a golden visa or a non-lucrative visa, don't worry about the type of visa, because the importance is whether in a calendar year you're going to stay more than 6 months in Spain. Now, the answer, yes, it needs to be taxed in Spain. 2, you need to inform the Inland Revenue in the UK that you're no longer a tax resident in the UK. And obviously, let me show you here, Paco. I remember here to end 1st of January, 31st of December. So what you need to do, again, let's say Anne came here, this month will be non-resident, but you need to claim from the 1st of January in the UK. So you will be doing your tax. Let's say Anne is doing the tax here in April, because last year, let's say she was resident, and she will be doing the tax in Spain, but claiming as well in the UK, saying, I'm a tax resident in Spain, please transfer the money back to me, because it's not any longer applicable in the UK. So it's 2 things, 2 tips I will recommend. 1 is do the tax. 2, claim it back, because it will overlap and you don't need to pay, obviously, and it's not legal to pay double. Okay.
Thank you.
Over to you, Richard.
The second part of that question, can Anne have a trust fund for her Spanish granddaughter in Spain?
Trust fund. It is just created about trust now.
Yeah, about the trust. I mean, obviously, trust is a financial scheme or a structure that is not recognized in Spain. It's not recognized in Spain. Obviously, what I understand the question is being made a trust outside Spain, in a country that can be made a trust, but it's not recognized in Spain. So a granddaughter, I can read Spanish granddaughter who lives in Spain, granddaughter can be beneficiary of a trust. Obviously, a trust made outside Spain, yes. What kind of tax implication that it has? Well, that's different.
That's different, yeah.
Obviously, this is something that you need to take advice. And what I recommend you, Anne, is just to show us what kind of trust, what kind, if it's a discretional trust, or know who are the trustees. And with that, we're to plan what we can do on tax planning, as it's been said by Richard. That's important. I mean, the trust is not a financial structure that can be recognized in Spain, but obviously has some tax implications, as we have in Spain. Many residents that are beneficiaries of trust from a UK, from for example, a US, and we need to check that if it needs to be included income or not, or what happens with inheritance. That's a complex situation, but obviously with planning that will be able to be answered. So please, Anne, contact us and let's have a private appointment, and let's focus on the documents, or what is your intention, if it's already done or not, and we will focus on that answers.
I think Michael wants to say something here. Over to you, Michael.
Yeah, when I hear the word trust, it makes me tremble, because when we talk about the necessity of making a Spanish will, this is the typical scenario, okay? And when we do some of our videos, our YouTube videos about nightmare inheritance procedures, the trust is what appears in most of those cases. Now, trusts are something that exists in the UK, in Australia, Canada, the States, and apart from that, basically they don't exist anywhere else. So in Spain, when we're in these scenarios where there's no Spanish will and the client's relying on an English will, and the English will involves a trust, the convalidation becomes a nightmare, and the tax scenario can get really, really complex in Spain. So if you at the moment are sitting there at home, you're relying on your English will, and you've been told, oh, you don't need to bother about a Spanish will, and you're sitting there and you've got a will in the UK that mentions the word trust, immediately contact a lawyer and make a Spanish will to deal with your Spanish assets, because that will that you've got will cause lots of problems when you have to use it in Spain.
Okay, thank you, Michael. And actually, is, as you said, is about the will, and it is about taxation, and it is important to look ahead, because that is going to bring a lot of, Michael, inheritance issues, or inheritance taxes, or anything planning on 720, income tax return, or whatever. Okay, so as I said, when we talk personally, Michael, yourself, your lawyer, just discuss it privately because it's important if that's your case. Okay, Richard, over to you. Let's move on then.
Okay. Right. Anne Knight says, once you have found your house in Spain and it's all going through, what happens next with the golden visa? Can I suggest we just give a quick outline of the next step?
Yeah, let's make a quick answer. Obviously, I mean, one of the most important decisions, and it is what we represent clients buying a property, is buying a property whenever they come to a different country, they come to Spain. It's a big and important issue, a big decision, where we are combining from A to Z. We are combining the clients from the beginning to the end. But what happens once you have phone and you are going through this process of buying the property? When does it start, the golden visa process, really? Well, it starts while you are buying the property, really, because we need to get information like documents like criminal records, the insurance, like the medical certification in case that you are married, the marriage certification. All of the documents that are not in Spanish needs to be translated. Some public documents needs to be apostille under the Hague Convention apostille. So during the process, as you are right now buying the property, that's the point right now. That's the moment, really, in order to start getting all these documents in order to apply. Notice one thing is important, that documents are valid in order to be submitted for 3 months. So you need to expect when is going to be completion. You need to expect when is going to be the time that the property is going to be inscribed. So once you get close into the notary completion date, that would be probably the time in order to start applying for the documents, or in this case, the public documents, as registration on the property in the property registry. It takes a little bit of time, depends on the registry, but you can expect that with a lawyer. And once you make the investment, when you complete the notary, once it's inscribed, is the time in order to obviously to make the application. But you have already recovered, you have already get all the documents before and planning obviously the time when you're going to apply for that.
Okay, Richard.
Yeah, thank you, Pedro. Right, Graham says, I currently have residencia, but for personal reasons had to leave Spain in June last year. I still have the residencia card. Would I have to cancel it to get a golden visa, or is it automatically cancelled due to my absence? I guess that depends whether it was a temporary or a permanent.
Well, I think I'm not sure if Graham is talking about TIE under the withdrawal agreement or the non-lucrative visa. I think he's talking about residencia, correct? Residencia means a European card. So my understanding, Richard, is that he managed to get before before Brexit, and he left.
I suspect he had residencia prior to Brexit.
Right.
Yeah, one of the requirements, some of the requirements is that you have to be, let's say, for example, older than 18 years old when you are a principal application, not to be EU citizen, not holding a passport for EU country, and not to be illegal in Spain and not be resident in Spain. But obviously, in this case, he's already resident in Spain. Obviously, can apply the golden visa? Yes. What needs to be done is to change into this residency into a golden visa scheme. That can be done easily, and that's not a problem.
Well, I wouldn't understand. I mean, probably it is worth having a conversation, because if he already has the residencia,
what probably wants is not to be tax resident. Maybe he left in June, he says.
Right.
He left in June, and then maybe he wants to come sometime, but no more than 183 days.
Right.
Probably wants to have it right in order to go back and forward.
So yeah,
without the limit of 90 days into 180 days. Probably is that something like that.
Right. So he left in June last year.
Can I interrupt? Yeah. He's come back again, and he's got a TIE temporary card.
Right. So he's got a TIE under the withdrawal agreement, and he's got to renew, because probably he has, Richard, he has a 5 years TIE because he's got it, and the expiring date will say 5 years. That renewing will happen after the 5 years, and the obligation he has is to stay in Spain more than 6 months with that TIE to be able to renew it in the future. Okay. Now, if he's not going to comply with that, he's legally here.
But obviously, this can be changed into a golden visa scheme. Once the main investment is made, and even though he's resident, it can be changed into a scheme of residency into a golden visa where he is not resident and he may become resident in the near future.
But I could still see that he has that obligation to stay. But if he doesn't, he will fall into a non-resident.
It's like he is rejecting.
Yes.
And then in starting a golden visa application.
Yeah, but it's worth having a chat because it is worth discussing the pros and cons. And obviously, after the 5 years, it will expire definitely. But yes, you could reject it. You could give it back at any time to the police station and then make an application of another one.
Yeah, at the end, I mean, obviously, I mean, if he's, but the golden visa, everything is straightforward. But obviously, when someone, and it happens sometimes that people leave Spain and has not done anything, obviously, communication into immigration office, police, in order to have some proof that you have already left the country, and in order just to avoid probably the future tax inspections that may happen. And
as an evidence.
Exactly.
Yeah. It's worth anyway talking, Richard, because there is a lot of questions on the interviews, on the appointments that we could, and then they could compare how does it work this way, how does it work the other way, and whether I'm obliged to reject it at the moment, because probably he's got already 5 years, he could do the non-resident, and so we need to talk a bit more to be able to help. Over to you, Richard.
Okay, the next one, quick answer, I can give this myself. Does the 183-day rule include other EU countries? The answer is yes. Simple as that. As far as now, Sandy says, as far as medical health cover is concerned, will the S1, this of course applies only in the UK, be sufficient for the golden visa?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, everything, any rights that you have in S1 or any document that shows that you have access through your rights in your home country, in this case in the UK with an S1, and that will be perfectly being added to the application of a golden visa. At the end, you need to show that you have access to the public system, health system with an S1 or with an insurance. And obviously, but we recommend to clients, obviously at the beginning, in case that cannot, or it's difficult to get an S1, go to an insurance, private insurance. And after a year, once they are staying here in Spain, maybe they are residents in Spain, and in the area that they are, I mean, they speak with different expats, and they speak about hospitals, doctors. Obviously, as I said before, public system is fantastic, it's really, really good. Obviously, will be also a cost every year in order to have access to the public system, which in some times is more similar to the private system, but it's something that obviously with an S1 can be included in the golden visa.
And if they didn't have the S1, Richard, you still have the private insurance for 1 year, and then you could join into the system, into the public with a flat fee below 65 euros. And then over that, I think is 165 euros. So you could still choose after 1 year registering the patron. Okay, Richard.
From Ian, does the 500k relate to a single property or multiple properties? This is a two-part question.
Yeah, I think when I explained that about the investment on property, can be one property or 10 properties, 5 properties, or 20 properties, 20 garages, for example, that altogether are more than 500,000 euros. Do not have to be one single property of more than 500,000 euros. Could be, obviously, yes, but also could be 2 properties of 300,000 euros, or could be 10 properties of 50,000 euros each one. Okay, and as I said, what kind of property? Can be a flat, can be an apartment, can be a country house, a villa, a land without any construction, and garage. Also can be included if you buy a land and then you make a new building and construction, can be added the purchase price of the land and the price of constructing your property. Okay, also can be added. Cannot be included if you buy a resale property, a resale flat, an apartment, which is a resale, it's not new, and then you refurbish it, that will not be able to be included. Okay.
Okay, thank you. And the second part of this, how is the value of the property determined? Now, is this cadastral, for instance, or is it the estate agent?
The title agent.
Yeah. I mean, the price at the end, when you get an agreement, obviously, it's been explained by Michael, the process of buying a property. At the beginning, you sign up a purchase contract with the seller in case that obviously you're buying, and then you end up into a notary office where is produced a deed, which is a public contract, a document, a contract, where it's the seller, the buyer, and the price. And a price needs to be included, which needs to be more than 500,000 euros if it's in one property. But if it's different properties, it's the price, the base. It's not included any tax that you may pay or any cost that you may suffer because of you instruct an architect or a lawyer or a notary, but maybe the cost of a notary, the cost of a property registry. That is not included in the purchase price. Is the purchase price is the price that you pay to the seller.
Okay, just to clarify that, it is not the cadastral value of the property, it is the buying price. Okay, brilliant. Okay, if you are entitled to, this is from Graham again, if you're entitled to travel within the Schengen, how are the Spanish authorities able to tell how long you have been in Spain? I'll answer that quickly. When you come into Spain, you go through the electronic border control, and that is your passport is checked, and they know how long you've been in or out of Spain. So that's simple. Do you have to prove to the Spanish tax office that you were in Spain for less than 6 months? Do you have to prove it?
Yes. As you say here, I think it was for Graham. Yes, Graham, in Spain, non-resident tax and income tax return works self-assessment. So our recommendation is in order to provide the information eventually, or if you're preparing to receive a letter from the tax office, because we could all be prepared for that, my recommendation here will be to draw a line and start a plan. If you're going to be in Spain, have evidence enough to prove you are non-resident. And the other important advice I will give you, Graham, is try to have a certificate from a different country saying you are a tax resident in another country. Because as you said, how are you going to prove it? Well, the tax office is accepting certificates from different countries saying that you are a tax resident in another country. So therefore, that plus you doing the non-resident tax here in Spain, self-assessment again, you are just confirming that you are non-resident and you're proving with that certificate. So that will be the way forward to do it. Okay, Richard.
Thank you. From Eric, an American friend, I want to buy a house and retire in Spain. I understand my primary house will not count for wealth tax up to 300k. Once I buy for Golden Visa, what other retirement assets are exempt from wealth tax, like IRA 401k for Americans?
Yeah, the IRA and the 401k, they are treated as pensions. They will be taxed as income in Spain. And whatever pension here, Eric, is taxed, whatever income is taxed here in Spain as a pension income is not subject to wealth. Wealth will be like Roth IRA.
That's right.
Or investments that you have, and therefore you need to work out. But it is important, and I need you to understand, because we're having a lot of questions about wealth tax from Americans, because they are obviously concerned to do tax planning, and it's my understanding they do planning a lot, and that's very good. Try to do a simulation before coming to Spain. Try to see how much you're going to pay here as a resident, what pension will be included here, and what will be the wealth tax if applicable. So let's do a simulation, because you've got allowances. Let's say you don't have an income and you have wealth. Well, then whatever wealth, you don't pay income tax, you pay wealth tax with an allowance for not having any income. And probably you might be surprised about the amount of money that you will pay, which you will not be as much, because from our video conference we did, the experience we had is people saying, oh, I expected much more money.
That's right.
Right. So the wealth tax, it will be Roth IRA. And Richard, I encourage Eric to do a video conference and for the specific answer. Over to you, Richard.
And one thing I would like to say about the wealth tax is that it's individual. It's each person. Each person. If it's 2 people that are buying a property, and this person
300
is 300 each one. If it's 2 people buying the property, each one can be exempt, can not count 300,000 euros on the property that is the permanent home or the habitual home that is bought. For example, if it's bought by them, I mean, it's more for the golden visa, it's more than 500,000 euros. Maybe all the investment done can be included in or not included in the wealth tax.
Okay, Richard, we don't have that much time, so if you could squeeze them all.
Yeah, I'm going to try. How much extra, or less maybe, would tax and costs be in Mercia with a property investment of 500k? In other words, is there a difference in Mercia?
Michael, I think Michael could give an answer now.
I've just finished one in Mercia for 600, so I know exactly where. In Mercia, transfer tax is 8%, so all the taxes and fees would come to around 10% in Mercia.
Okay. Thank you, Michael. And the second part of that question, could you buy a property in Spain for 500k and thus entitling a mother and 28-year-old son a golden visa if they are both on the property deeds? So I guess somebody is buying it for them. If they meet the financial requirements.
If the property is only 500,000, they have to put it in the name of just one person and try and get the others down as dependents. If they put it into the 2 names or 3 names, there's no chance for a golden visa.
Well,
that's right. I agree with Michael. I have said just put it in one name if it's more than 500,000 euros. And regarding the children, which is 28 years old,
that's not easy.
Obviously you need to demonstrate it's dependent. Has some health issues or some situation that is extremely dependent on, because obviously will not be accepted at all.
Yeah, it will be a difficult, but with a 28 years old,
obviously if he's married or has a child, I mean, it will not be accepted unless you demonstrate a big issue. I'm thinking about right now about health issues.
So the most important thing here, I consider.
Sorry, Pedro, would it be sufficient if they proved that, for example, that person was still at university or something? Would that be enough?
But with the golden visa, this is subjective. Obviously, is 28 years old will not be accepted at all. Just because I'm dependent, I'm studying in the university, that will not be accepted. Okay, it's subjective, but I, as much as I understand, obviously, with the application that we've been made in, it's around 23, 24 years. It will be maybe accepted. Maximum, if we demonstrate that it's real. It's been some years in the university. It's not the first year. And he's not married, has no children, I mean, issues, or has not been working, or he's not working, and he's focused on the university, but not much than that. No.
Okay.
Yeah, there's the person has come back on that. The son, the 28-year-old son, is autistic. So
he's a dependent.
He's a dependent, and in that case, should be admitted. And could be included in the golden visa, as far as I understand. Obviously, I would like her or him to contact us, and we will follow the process, because of this situation. Because obviously, it needs to be informed and proof about the requirements on health, and proof of all this information really on papers. But if it's not the case, and it's a dependent, and we can demonstrate it's a dependent, as I said, health issues that. Or dependent issues in this case, then will be applied, and will be. I'm positive with that. Yeah.
Okay, thank you, Pedro. The next question has been put in by James, and it's complex. It's a tax question. So I'm suggesting to James that ideally he contacts you directly and seeks specific tax advice. That one's too complicated to answer here.
Yeah. Oh,
right.
That's fine.
Yeah.
What will be the very last? I think the very last one, Richard, I will have, because we need just to close the issue here. Yep.
Yeah. Okay. The last one will be, how long do you need to keep the 500k invested to obtain residency? And do you need to fill out the Modello 720 if you don't qualify as a tax resident, but could you still be applicable to pay wealth tax? So it's a three-part thing. Quickly again, how long do you need to keep the 500k invested?
Yeah, I mean, as I said, it's important that once you made the investment and you get a golden visa, you maintain the investment. The investment need to maintain in order to, you want to renew, obviously, the golden visa, because we have to be demonstrate that you have maintained the investment. As I said, this does not mean that you cannot sell a property and buy another one. You can do that. You can sell a property, make an investment on bank deposit, or sell a property and buy another property which fulfills the minimum requirements of 500,000 euros, but the maintenance of the investment is a must in order to renew. Sometimes it's a question that, okay, I get this golden visa because I made investment and I don't want to renew, I just want to sell it. Well, that's a point. You can sell it, but obviously you will not be able to renew anymore, obviously, the investment.
Okay. Do you need to fill out the Modello 720? And if you don't qualify as a tax resident, could you be still applicable to pay wealth tax?
Right. If you're non-resident, you don't need to do Modello 720. And sorry, you don't need to do Modello 720. And wealth tax will be different for residents than for non-resident. Okay. For example, I believe Andalusia, Michael, there is, I believe there is no wealth tax at the moment, correct? Neither Madrid.
I think there's still wealth tax for last year. They're thinking of removing it now. So if they were a non-resident, they obviously wouldn't be qualified for the house would be declared in full as wealth, but they'd only declare the wealth in Spain, but they won't have any deduction for main home. So, and then I think the amount would be, in Andalusia at the moment, the deal would basically be, if they were non-resident, non-tax resident, basically, if they have more than 700,000 euro in Andalusia, they would be taxable for wealth tax because they don't have any allowance for the house. So basically, it's as simple as if they're non-resident and they just got a small account and a house, if the house is worth more than 700,000 euro, they'll pay a small amount of wealth tax. As you rightly said before, wealth tax is usually much, much less than what sort of people are thinking when they come into the office. Wealth tax in general is a small amount.
Yeah, that's correct. It's exactly the same, Michael, here in Costa Blanca. It's 700, and so probably is a national. And when you're a resident, then it depends in Andalusia differently, Madrid different, and Alicante different. Okay. Yes, Richard.
There are three more questions, all requiring relatively simple answers. So do you want me to go through them?
If it's straightforward, let's go for it, because we only have 1 minute left, and we did extend it already 30 minutes extra. Right. Let's go for the last one, Richard. Okay.
Re-hospital insurance, can this be taken out before applying for the visa? And will the health company need evidence you are applying for a visa? And I can answer that, yes and no.
We couldn't hear very well, Richard.
Okay, it's re-hospital insurance. Can this be taken out before applying for the visa? The answer is yes. Will
Yes.
the health company need evidence you are applying for a visa? The answer is no.
No, that's right.
Correct.
That's right.
Correct.
Obviously, it's important that whenever you apply for this kind of insurance, you say that is for this kind of visa, golden visa or non-lucrative visa. Obviously, they have some standard policies and standard products in order to conduct this kind of a specific issue. But it's well answered, yeah.
Okay. Richard, I did put here an article, several articles, because obviously we're running out of time and people might want to obviously read. I did put an article here about wealth tax in Spain, obviously with all the individual comments that you need to talk with your advisor and lawyer, whether you are a non-resident, whether you're a resident, whether you are in Andalusia, Costa Blanca, Madrid, etc., etc. Income tax return, you've got the article about the scale slightly. I believe we did share here about buying property. We've got information. So I think, Richard, do you have any extra, or can I just pass it on to Juanfran?
Well, what I'd like you to do is to put those articles up as a post in Brexpats in Spain, Eastern region, and our main page, if you would, please, because I think that's
okay, of course. We'll send you the link, and then you could just pass it on. All right. Okay. Well, thank you very much for your time. We again are very, very happy that for people's feedback, saying that they really appreciate our time, Michael, Richard. So they always thank you for being here, because we know you're always busy. And this is an effort, obviously, and we're very, very grateful. Again, I'm going to pass over to Juanfran, who's going to just probably fly you through Spain with the video. It's only 2 minutes. I think it's nice if you are abroad, learning where is Spain, what it is, and then hopefully we will see you after Easter. So I'm going to pass it over to Juanfran now. And I thank you all for your assistance and obviously support. Over to you, Juanfran.
Born on the Mediterranean, I feel so connected to this sea, to this land, to this light. Because the Costa Blanca is my passion. It's my life. It's who I am. It defines me as a person and sets me apart from the rest. Yes, it's important not to forget who we are and where we come from. That helps us understand the meaning of our lives. By this sea, I was born and grew up, laughed and cried too, the emotions of life. Our land is health and well-being, the joy of living, in our own way, in our own style, authentic. That's why so many artists come to the Costa Blanca looking for inspiration, to capture the essence, that light that defines our character. And not just artists. So many people come here and stay. The sky, the landscape, the rosy sunsets, the warm sand under your feet, the sea breeze on your skin, the mountains, and seeing the sea from the heights. I love to close my eyes, take a deep breath, and feel the sun on my eyelids. As if the light was inside me. I can't explain it. As my grandmother used to say, life is full of inexplicable things. You have to live them, feel them. I had to live in other parts of the world to really value what we have here. I have everything I need. My future is here. I've learned to enjoy the little things, the little pleasures in life. And we know a lot about those. There's nothing more authentic than feeling happy in the place where you were born. And however hard I try, I can't explain it in words. Costa Blanca, authentically ours.
You can't stop thinking about it. That hidden cove, just for you. That little hideaway in the mountains. Or that beautiful postcard town. dreaming about enjoying the fresh air again, feeling the sun on your skin, exploring, walking. Traveler, there is no path. Paths are made by walking. Never stop dreaming. Spain will wait.